Welcome to Literally My Life, My Guide to Girlhood. I'm your host, Alexandra Lamine, here to talk all things faith, girlhood, and everything in between. This podcast is about navigating life with purpose, leaning into lessons God places before us, and celebrating the beauty of becoming. Whether it's chasing dreams, conquering challenges, or growing in faith, I'm here to remind you that with God, all things are possible. We're building a community where girlhood meets greatness, where we keep it real, inspire each other, and give all the glory to God for the journey we're on. So let's dive into another episode and do life together, one conversation at a time. Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of Literally My Life, My Guide to Girlhood. I am so grateful to be doing today's episode. I feel like I say that at the beginning of every episode, like, oh my God, I'm so happy to be back, I'm so happy to be back, I'm so happy to be back, I'm so happy to get another trip around the sun, get renewed and all that stuff, but I really mean it today, because today we're going to be talking about, in my opinion, a long-awaited episode. We're going to be talking about my journey getting sick, and we're going to be talking about how I overcame that and recovery and all of the above. And I'm really excited to be able to tell this story because this is kind of like my testimony. I feel like it's my testimony. Whenever people ask me, what's your biggest obstacle or what is something you really had to recover from, I always tell them this story. So I'm very excited to be telling it. And I'm very grateful. Like, I just want to start this episode with like praising God, because I really want to thank God that I'm able to sit here in front of this computer screen and tell you guys my story and tell you guys this, because it was a very large chance at one point that I wasn't going to be able to tell this story, that I was going to become another statistic and pass away. And I didn't. God gave me another chance at life, and I'm already getting emotional thinking about that. So I probably will cry this episode. You probably might cry too. It's going to be beautiful. And I'm very excited to get into it. I love you guys, and I really want to say I really appreciate the people who tune in every week. But the story is really meaningful to me. I can't wait to tell it, and I hope that it inspires you guys. So yeah, let's get into it. But before we get into today's episode, sorry, I have to do it. I need you guys to make sure that you're following our Instagram and our TikTok at Literally My Life MGTG podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and that you're subscribed to our newsletter. You submit your questions to your Ask Alex, and that you shop off of my Amazon storefront. All links in the episode's description below. Okay, now let's get into it. I had to self-promote a little bit. Okay, so we're going to be doing this in parts. I usually do segments. Today we're going to be doing parts, okay? And part one today is the storm begins, okay? Sophomore year. I'm going to paint this picture for you guys, okay? So I went to the Chicago High School for the Arts my freshman year, and I had a really great time there. But I decided to transfer because it just wasn't for me academically. Like, they didn't align with a lot of the goals that I had. Sorry, I'm moving the mic. I'm like doing a lot of stuff. They didn't really align with the goals that I had for myself as a high school student, or like I feel like they weren't giving me the tools I needed for college. So I decided to transfer to a school that I felt was a better fit for me, which was Whitney Young. Well, that was a decision for sure. Well, I was really excited when I first got accepted because I didn't think I was going to get accepted. I didn't think I would have that opportunity to kind of start fresh and go to Whitney Young, but I got it, and it was something I really wanted. There was like this time in my life, it was the summer of 2022, I'll never forget it. I was so close. I remember I was like, had a mission in a way to getting everything I wanted, or what I thought I wanted at the time. So, and going to Whitney Young was on that list. I used to like manifest it every day. I'm not kidding. I did like the 3-6-9 method. I did the whole thing. Well, I got there August 2022. And when I first transferred in, I remember I was so nervous. I didn't know anyone. I was like, oh my God, I'm the new girl. Like, I can't even believe this. Like, this is so weird. I haven't been like the new girl since like I moved to Chicago. So it was like a very interesting feeling to experience all over again. But I definitely did enjoy it. Until I met a boy. Now, I've always vowed to myself to never really touch on it too much on the podcast because it's a situation that's not worth my airtime. I don't get renewed for 2 seasons of Literally My Life to be talking about this stupid guy. Not that there's any, well, yeah, there is some hurt feelings left from that situation. So I don't want to go like too deep into detail on that, but I do want to say that I did meet someone at Whitney Young. And how do I explain this? I did meet someone at Whitney Young I thought would be a potential suitor in the world of Alex, you know, to have somebody over here doing literally my life with me. No, literally my life wasn't even a thought back then. But it didn't work out, as stuff does. But it was a very, very public situation because this guy was probably the most popular person like at Whitney. And so with that came a lot of drama and a lot of toxicity, which I did not expect within my first month of being there. And so I quickly went from being someone that nobody knew because I told you I went in there blind. I didn't know anyone, so it's not like I was transferring to be with a friend or anything. So I quickly went from being someone that nobody knew to being somebody that everybody knew, which was a shift I was definitely not prepared for. It was a shift I was definitely not prepared for, but I learned how to deal with it, although it was very, very stressful. And I say it was very stressful because with that drama and toxicity came a lot of bullying. So it was like a year of chaos, and I really had to learn how to navigate in a very messy social environment because this guy wasn't too nice to me afterwards, his friends weren't too nice to me afterwards, a lot of girls weren't too nice to me afterwards, a lot of people that I didn't know, people that I did know, and they just didn't have a lot of kind things to say about me after that situation. And I was like up for public scrutiny all the time. It felt like I was on like a cover of a mag. Like I've made this reference before. I'm like, I felt like Britney Spears in 2007. Not that it was that bad though. Like free Britney. Like I feel so bad. But it was definitely a challenge. It was definitely not fun. But it was a year of chaos, and I hated that year. I got into my very first physical fight. I was picked on relentlessly. I mean, a lot of people paid a lot of attention to me that I did not expect. I had people pull my hair to see if it was real. I had a lot of people ask me questions, like people I didn't know just felt comfortable coming up to me and ask me questions about my personal life, my romantic life, like just completely inappropriate stuff. I just had a lot of people just all up in my beeswax, talking to me crazy, saying stuff to me, having to deal with girls that I did not know existed, saying that they hated me. Like, I dealt with a lot. I had a lot of people confront me about the situation, and it was just a lot. And he was not worth it. Okay, not in case this does get back to that social circle, which I don't think it will, but it probably will, maybe. Not that I have any like hate towards him or anything like that, where I'm saying like, oh my god, he was such an idiot and he didn't serve me anything, because it wasn't a thing of like me being upset over an emotional connection because we didn't have that. I was just more upset about the public embarrassment and the public scrutiny, which I didn't deserve because I literally just got there. So if anything, that's what I'm hurt about. I'm not actually hurt about this guy because like I said, he wasn't really worth it. Okay, enough about that situation. I want to talk about, we're going to go into part two, which was when the body breaks down the summer after sophomore year. So the summer after sophomore year. So the summer after was a really tough time for me because a lot of stuff happened in a month. So I failed my geometry final and got into some like a weird family dynamic because of it. Couldn't go to a pre-college program in Spelman because I failed my geometry final, and I failed it because my teacher didn't like. I don't care, I'll say that. I had another issue with this guy and all the relentless bullying, and then he got a new girlfriend. She was so mean to me. It was just a lot of crap. And then I was dealing with like another friend at another school, and we were about to fight over something, and I got into my first physical fight. And that was in 1 month, so it was a lot. So the summer after my sophomore year, I remember I'll like never forget this day. I went to a basketball game at Whitney Young. I met up with my friends. Well, no, I didn't. I went alone. Okay, so I went alone. I had fun, and then I came back home. And this was before I did interviews, so it wasn't like I was just like interviewing. I just went to go because I had nothing else to do. And I came back home, and I remember that night I felt really sick. Like I felt like feverish, like to a point where I couldn't move, and I thought I would just get over it. And like when I tell you my life changed forever that day. I did not feel good at all. Like I had to sit up for emphasis. Like I did not feel good at all. Also, excuse my skin not to be shallow. Not that this is really great camera quality, but I'm breaking out. Anyway, I felt like poop. I felt so bad. And I never felt like the same after that. I'm not even kidding. Like, I just got a fever one day and it did not go away. And this fever quickly transitioned to different symptoms. This fever quickly transitioned to I would get like the shivers at night, which I never experienced in my childhood. Like, I would get fevers when I was a kid, never experienced that. I would get hot sweats, like, I would wake up with my hair like on top of my head. I would wake up and like my shirt would be drenched, my like pants would be drenched in like sweat. I was sweating. I like soon lost an appetite, which I thought was really weird. Like, I could not eat my normal portions. I would eat like this much food and that would even be too much for me. So it'd be weird. It would be like I cannot finish a meal, which I noticed very quickly. So then I started to lose weight very rapidly. I went from being like 180 pounds to being like 160. It was pretty bad. Um, and I just felt really bad. Like, my inflammation started to inflame. I also lost a lot of energy. I mean, I lost a lot of energy. I wasn't able to do anything that I had been able to do previously. I wasn't really getting out of bed. I was exhausted every day. I had a fever every day. I felt like crap and my body was just breaking down. And I just could not believe what was happening. So the first week of school, I wasn't able to attend it, but it wasn't because of my health. It was because I was picked to go to this debate program at Yale. I was so excited because at that time, Yale was my dream school. Yale was what I wanted. The way now that I want this and the podcast and all of this to work out and for me to work out as a journalist was the way I wanted Yale. Yale was everything to me. And to be able to be picked to go to a debate program there was such a big deal to me. I was like, oh my God, this is all I've ever wanted. This is amazing. And then I got there and I felt like crap. I felt so bad. I was dizzy all the time. I was super skinny. I had my grandmother like do my hair every day because I couldn't do it. It was so bad. I couldn't even stand up long enough. Like, I would get so dizzy in the shower. I would think I was gonna faint. I would like see spots. I felt so bad. I came back from that program. I didn't even win the tournament that year. I came back from that program. My mom took me to the doctor. They took some blood, but I was cleared to go to school the next day. I went to school the next day. And I felt like crap again. I was crying my way there. After my first class, I fell down and was taken to the nurse's office. At that same time, my doctor called my mom and told her that my hemoglobin, which measures like the protein and stuff within your blood, it should be between 12 to 14. Mine was like 6.9. It was dangerously low. And I had to leave school at that moment and go get a blood transfusion. And it was really bad. And my health only started to decline from there. I couldn't go to school in person. I was physically debilitated. I slowly but surely transitioned from those symptoms of the fevers and not feeling good to not being able to walk. I used to feel this like intense itchiness in the bottom of my feet, and I just hated walking. It would burn so much, it would hurt so much. I quickly learned how to crawl because walking hurt so much, and it was devastating. So at this point right now, we're in like late September 2022, early October, no, 2023, early October 2023, the beginning of my junior year, and I'm feeling like crap. I can't walk. I've lost my appetite and I'm feeling like crap. And mind you, my doctors, they've run every test on me, they've done everything, and they basically said that nothing is wrong. So nothing's seriously wrong with me, but I feel like boo-boo. My mom gets me into school at the virtual academy. I'm doing school there. And then over Thanksgiving break, I went to my aunt's house, which I feel like only made things worse. Like, my health definitely declined. I was stressed there, and I feel like stress really added on to that. So I went there being able to walk with a limp, and then I left and I couldn't walk at all. So now we're in early December 2023. I came home, can't walk at all. I can't use the bathroom. I can't get out of bed. I'm like bedridden. I'm not eating a thing. I'm sitting in my bed all day watching like the Kardashians on Hulu, praying for some kind of miracle. I convinced my mom, who at this point was really reluctant, to let me get an MRI. I had one doctor at Lurie's who was really curious about my case. Everybody called him like Dr. House. And I had convinced my mom, I was like, Mom, can I get an MRI? Like, he really wants me to get an MRI, and I think I'm just gonna listen to him and just do whatever he wants because I am so desperate to feel better. My mom agreed. We went like the Monday of, and I remember, here, I'm gonna actually pull up the photo. I will never forget that day. My like mom was doing my hair for me at this point because I felt like crap. And my mom put my hair in these two braids, and my mom was telling me, she was like, "You're gonna be fine. Like, I don't even think they're gonna find anything." And I kept telling her, I was like, once we get to the hospital, I remember saying this, they are not going to want me to leave. This was me waiting to get my MRI. This was me. I was so dissociated. This is like a video of me. That was me this time last year. Like, I can't even, like, as you watch this video, I mean, you just see, like, look at me. Like, look at how much pain I was in. And I'm just, like, nodding my head back and forth, trying to, like, make some sense, find some relief of what was going on. This was my MRI results. All these like little white pieces right here. For the people who watch video podcasts, mwah, this is like the first day I'm like totally crazy about video podcasts. For the people who watch video podcasts, these were my MRI results. All these white, these are the backs of my legs and my knees. These white pieces, they look like salt. That's inflammation. And this was the back of my legs. This was my inflammation. And this was, I think these were my thighs or my arms or one of the two. I was inflamed. And then this was me in the hospital. And I remember it was just so devastating. And this was me the first time, which was 2 days after I got there, being able to stand up without pain. And there's my dad. So I went and I got that MRI. And oh my God, this is so sad. Like, I don't want to cry. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. Well, I know why. I got that MRI, I just showed you guys. And my doctor said what I had told them, what I told my parents, which is they're not going to want me to go home. They wanted me to be admitted right then and there. My mom was panicking a little bit because she didn't expect to hear such crazy news. So my mom was like, well, why? And they told my mom, they said, looking at this scan, looking at these results, she has leukemia. And it's really bad. It's progressed a lot. Nobody's been able to catch it, but it looks like a very rare form of leukemia. And it doesn't look like she has very long. And my parents were on the phone with this doctor. And they were on the phone, and my mom was saying, well, what if she just spends this like weekend at home and then I can bring her in Monday or something like that? Because for some reason, I like can't remember the exact timeline because I got this MRI, I think it was like on a Thursday. So I remember my mom saying, well, what if we just spent the weekend at our house and then I bring her in Monday so that she's comfortable and I can get her packed and it'll be fine. And my doctor told my parents right then on the phone, he was like, she probably doesn't have the weekend. She's probably going to die either today or tomorrow. And my parents were like silent. Like they were so hurt. Like, what? Like, she's gonna die. Like, not only is she going to die, but you're telling me she has leukemia and she's gonna die this weekend. And I came home and I was sitting in my bed. I was sitting in my bed. I hate crying like in front of you guys because I feel like I have such an ingenuine cry, but I'm just remembering it all. I was sitting in my bed and my sister came in my room and she didn't go to the MRI place with us, so she didn't know what was going on. And she was sitting in my room and she was trying to talk to me. And at that point, I'm sure you guys could see from that photo and from those videos that my breath was really low. So I couldn't speak really. Like, that's why I say I couldn't really talk because my breath was so low. Like, talking was really hard for me. So I would just sit there and kind of go like this all day because I couldn't really breathe a lot. And my sister came in the room and she was trying to talk to me and I couldn't respond back. And so I just was nodding. I was like, mm-hmm. And my mom called her in the room and I presume she told her. And my sister just was like, oh my God, what? Like, are you serious? Like, you have cancer? Like, my sister was so hurt. So I kind of suspected I had cancer from what they were saying. I was like, my mom didn't want to tell me because she didn't want to freak me out, but I kind of suspected that's what they were saying. So the next morning, my mom ran me this bath and she was going to put me in the bathtub and then pack me up this like bag and take me to the hospital to like die. And I remember I was so weak, I couldn't even get in this tub. And so my sister gave me like this bird bath and she braided my hair and I crawled. Like, I physically crawled from out of my mom's room out here to down the stairs, and my sister's boyfriend at the time was here that day, and he picked me up and he carried me into my mom's car and they drove me to the hospital. They checked me in. I had to wait about 2 or 3 hours to get a room. And that's where I lived, in that room for 3 weeks on the 17th floor at Lurie's Children's Hospital, downtown Chicago. I lived in that room for about 2 to 3 weeks, which was insane. So once my dad and my sisters found out what was going on, they were so panicked. My dad flew all the way from Denver, which is not very far, but he flew here from Denver, and he was panicking. He was like, I don't want her to be sick. I don't want her to die. Like, I'm super scared. I'm super scared. So my dad was here like the next day. Like the next morning, my dad was here and he was like, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm so grateful, like, I had my dad during that time, because there were a lot of kids whose parents had like day jobs and they had work and they couldn't stay with them all day. And I was so blessed to have like a dad who was there all the time. It was totally insane to me. And those 3 weeks were hard, but I think a day or two once I'd been admitted, my doctor came and he told me, well, let me tell you guys this first. I really was begging God at this point not to let me die, because I didn't want to die. I knew I didn't want to die because I had not lived. I was 16 and I felt that year from hell I was telling you about, that sophomore year, I had poured myself into my academics and looking great on paper and having all the extracurriculars and going to Yale and all that stuff. And on paper, everything was great. Like, on paper, I had everything I could have ever wanted, but I didn't have a big part of my life, which was like a social part of my life. I was 16 years old. I had never been in love. I had never really taken risk. I had never done anything. I didn't have like a large friend group. I didn't make as many friends as I wanted. I was gonna go out and die with a horrible reputation at school. Like, I didn't want to die like this. I was like begging God. I was like, I laid on my back and I said, God, if you give me another chance, I will live for you. Like, give me a second chance at life and I'll live for you. I will do everything better if you just give me another chance to make things right. Please, Jesus. A day or two later, my doctor came in, told me that I absolutely did not have leukemia and came clean and had no cancers at all. And I was just severely inflamed. So there was no death sentence, there was no cancer. God pulled me through because it looked like I was gonna die. And God immediately said, I'm not done with you yet. Immediately. And I was so surprised. I was like, oh my God. Like, that's the best news we ever heard from my family. I couldn't believe it. I had to live in the hospital for 3 weeks, and those 3 weeks were really, really hard. I had to learn how to eat again. I had to learn how to walk again, which was the most difficult. I had a physical therapy every day and occupational therapy. So I used to have a physical therapist. In the hospital, they gave me this walker. I still have it. And they would come every day and I would get my walker. At first, I couldn't stand. So at first, I had to learn how to stand up again. So I would hold this walker and I would get up and I would stand for 30 seconds or so and shift my weight back and forth and sit down again and try again. That was my physical therapy. And then slowly but surely that progressed to me being able to walk around the room. And then that progressed to me being able to walk around the floor. Like the whole floor, my whole 17th floor, I would walk around it, which was insane. I never ever thought I would be able to gain my ability to walk, especially within like 2 weeks after not being able to walk for like 3 or 4 months. So that was a huge blessing. Occupational therapy was great. I had to learn how to use the bathroom again. I had to learn how to brush my teeth, because one thing I did when I was sick was I used to sit down and wash my face and brush my teeth. And I didn't really wash my face a lot when I was sick. I would just kind of like leave it and just brush my teeth and put on deodorant and get in the bed again. So I had to learn how to do those little things you take for granted, like take a shower for 20 minutes and lotion down after, and then put conditioner in your hair and brush your teeth and wash your face. I had to learn how to do all of that stuff again. And it was insane. And I had like a team of doctors coming in every day. I had a lot of things I had to learn how to do. Like, I even had to learn how to sleep through the night again because I was so inflamed I couldn't sleep at night. So that was a big thing for me. But glory be to God. I fully recovered. And I remember one last request of mine was I wanted to get out of the hospital. I didn't want to spend Christmas in the hospital. And I think I got out the hospital December 22nd or 1st. I'm pretty sure it was one of those 2 days. Either December 21st or 2nd, I got out the hospital, which was insane because I didn't think I was going to get out. And not only did I get out, I got out in time for Christmas. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but the floor I was on, the 17th floor, was the cancer floor. And I walked out of there cancer free. I never even had cancer right before Christmas. And it was absolutely amazing. Now, here's the hard truth. Recovery was, in a way, harder than getting sick to me because getting sick was physical, but recovery was more than physical. It was physical, it was mental, it was emotional, and spiritual. It was a lot of stuff. So once I got out the hospital, things were great. There's like a little lag, like let's get that together. So once I got out of the hospital, things were great. I lived here with my parents. I went to my physical therapy and I did stuff and it was fine. Then about 3 months in, so I'd say about March 2022 is when stuff started to kind of go downhill because I experienced some cyberbullying. Now, at this point, I had recovered completely physically, but I was still adjusting mentally and emotionally because I was still on steroids. I was still having some inflammation relapses. I was still going to the ER a lot. Like, I was still sick, right? But I wasn't as sick, so I was really grateful for that. I dealt with some cyberbullying, not solely because I was sick. It was a very stupid situation. I don't want to rehash or relive because this has been a lot. But I experienced some cyberbullying from some girls that I thought were my friends. And it was really hard. And it took me to a really, really dark place. So I fell into the situation where I was being cyberbullied by people that were close to me at the time. And I remember feeling so, I remember feeling so vulnerable and so sad that that was happening because I was at this very vulnerable point in my life and being talked about by people that I loved and I needed support from at that time was not what I needed, and it added a lot of unnecessary stress from, like on top of being sick. Then after that happened, my parents fought, and then after that happened, there were a lot of like shifting family dynamics, and it took a real toll on my mental health. And I didn't realize at the time, especially when I first got back from the hospital, I was living in an answered prayer because I got a second chance at life. That's what I didn't realize. I was like, well, this is my second chance at life. Like, how am I going to do better? How am I going to do this, that, and the third? And these are my circumstances. Had exactly what I asked for. I had a second chance. God didn't say I'm going to give you another life and it's going to be perfect. That's not what he promised me. He promised me another chance at life, and I was living in an answered prayer because I was thinking of it as, oh my God, I'm thrown back into the world after being pulled from society after being sick, and I lived in a hospital and I had no social life, and now I have to readjust socially. Now I have to readjust academically. Now I have to rebuild my relationships with my friends and my family. Now I have to continue to confront my trauma, and I don't know how to do that, and I'm hurt because I don't feel I have the tools to do that being in the hospital and having gotten sick, and I didn't approach it right because I had that mindset. The way I think of it now, if it were me, if I were going to do it all over again, I would have been excited to do that. You know why I would have been excited to do that? Because I was living in an answered prayer. I got another chance to do it, and I would do things completely differently. I would approach my family dynamics better. I would approach my attitude better. I would approach my mental health better. I would have taken better care of my mental health. I would have cut out the toxic people in my life. I would have taken it as an approach. I would have had the approach to improve my life instead of be devastated by my circumstances or be devastated about the fact that I got sick. I would have more been happy about the fact that I recovered, if that makes any sense. So now we're going to go into part 4, which I'm calling redemption through faith and purpose. If I can speak. Oh my God, guys. When it gets a certain hour, I can't speak. So there's going to be a lot of stumbling. It's 8:11. I tried to record earlier. I really tried. It's been a long day. So, like I just said, I begged God for a second chance in the hospital, and I took it for granted initially because I had a wrong approach. And this year was really tough for me. I like to say last year I got sick physically. This year I got sick mentally. This was a very tough year for me. I lost friends. I cried. I went through grief. I went through depression. I went through anxiety. I went through self-harm and, suicidal ideation. I went to a PHP program. I went through a lot this year. I lost relationships I never thought I would lose, and I gained so much more than I would have ever thought I would have ever gotten, but I was devastated for a really long time about this year. And I was devastated that I felt that I had a lot of trauma from my breakup my freshman year, which we've talked about before, which was completely heartbreaking and something I didn't know how to approach, and I still have to approach and carry with me to this day. I had to carry the trauma of what happened my sophomore year with all the relentless bullying and the chaos from this guy. So now it's back to back the two guys that I've opened up my heart to and worn my heart on my sleeve and been vulnerable with have broken my heart and publicly embarrassed me. And then on top of that, now I just got sick. And I had to carry all of that trauma and process it. And it was too much for me. And I fell back into some bad behaviors and I became this very depressed, manic person. And I think the worst time for me was over the summer. If you were listening to the podcast, I was doing an episode every week because this was the therapy I needed. It was everything I needed during that time. It was a hard time for me because I don't know if you guys were listening to the podcast, but during those weeks, you could see in my eyes, I'm sure if you go back and watch Summertime Blues or Lollapalooza Chaos or whatever, those episodes, you see I'm not okay. I was mentally not okay. I was very devastated about everything that had happened in my life because I've said, I've talked about this before, I live with PTSD. I'm traumatized from a lot of stuff that happened in my childhood and especially from these last 2 years that we just touched on. And trauma with me is something that I have to carry every day. It's something I think about when I'm getting dressed. It's something I think about when I go to bed. It's something I think about when I wake up in the morning. It's something I think about as I record to you guys. It's something I think about when I'm journaling, when I'm doing my schoolwork or whatever. I'm always sitting and reprocessing or thinking of another angle about my trauma. It's something I deal with every day. And I had felt that getting sick was the cherry on top, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live. I couldn't go on. I thought I was at the end of my road. I had no options. I had nowhere to go. I had blown almost every relationship in my life. And I didn't know what to do. And I decided, I was there's only one person I can run to now, although I've strayed away so far and I've fallen into temptation, into lust, into suicidal ideation, into self-harm, into lying and cursing and all kinds of stuff. I was I need to talk to God again. I need him again. And I remember just starting to pray again was even hard for me because I felt so ashamed. I was why would God want to talk to a sinner like me? Why would God want to have a relationship with somebody like me? Why would God even want to hear from me? And the more I studied the Bible and the more I prayed and the more I got into that relationship, I realized God literally sent his one and only son to die on a cross so that we could communicate, so that he could talk to a sinner like me. He knew then when Jesus was going to die on the cross about me and about the sins that I was going to commit and the person I was going to be. And that was part of the reason he sent his son on the cross to die for me. So instead of feeling bad about the person I was or the mistakes I made, I decided to make the best of that opportunity and to make best of the reason Jesus died for my sins, and that was to have a relationship with God. So best believe I was going to take him up on that, and I was going to get that relationship with God. And God has really, especially these past 2-ish months, rebuilt my life and put me back together because I was broken. I was hurt. And I still am. I'm not anew, completely. You know what I mean? I'm not fixed, but God is fixing me. I'm a work in progress, but I'm at least in progress. You get what I mean? I was depressed. I was anxious. I was suicidal. I didn't want to get up in the morning. I used to be so mad at God. Some days I would wake up and actually be mad that God had woke me up another day. I had no purpose. I was lazy. I had no drive to me. I did not know what was coming next for me. I did not care what was coming next for me because I genuinely just didn't want to be alive anymore. And God turned that around for me. God saved me from myself and my own self-destructive habits, my own self-destructive behavior, my self-sabotaging. God saved me from myself. And that was the person I needed saving from. It wasn't other people. It was me. I needed saving from myself, and God saved me from myself. And I thank him every day because of that. And I've fallen so in love with God's grace and seeing him work daily in my life. I sometimes get so amazed that God has allowed me to have such a beautiful life and to get more than I would have ever expected. Like, as I sit here, oh, I hit the mic. As I sit here and talk to you, right next to me are my literally my life business cards. I never would thought this would be me. I'm sitting here talking to you in my literally my life t-shirt. Do you think I would have thought this would have ever been my life? Do you think I would have ever thought I would be this blessed to have you guys? I started a podcast in my room back in January, completely bored with my life, only thought my best friend was going to listen, and it blew up. And I started a TikTok for it, and that blew up. And I started interviewing, and those blew up. Like, I just didn't expect to ever have any of the stuff that I have. And I think of it now, and I think of God's plan for me, and I just think, I'm like, God has made such a beautiful blessing out of brokenness. Like, God has made a bless out of like a mess because I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was going to become. I was hopeless. I was clueless. I was confused. I had no faith. I thought I had no purpose. I was so over it. And God made such a beautiful life out of it. I have more now than I could have ever imagined. And that means so much to me. And I tear up thinking about it because I found peace and purpose in God's plan for me. I went on my knees, I started praying again. I was like, God, I know I asked you for a second chance and I know I probably blew it. But I ask you, God, now to show me what to do with my life. I need wisdom. I need encouragement. I need your guidance. I need you to help me get away from stuff that's distracting me, that's pulling me down. I need you to pull me away from it. I need you to pull me away from the depression and the suicidal ideation and the tendencies. And God, I need you to take me away from the bad influences, God. And I need to do better in my life, God. And I want to do what you want me to do. I want to follow you and be so completely obedient, even though it's hard. I want to do it. I want to follow you. I want to be happy. I don't want to hurt anymore. I just remember praying that and crying and feeling that like I don't want to be broken anymore. I want to be the same happy little girl I was when I entered this earth. I don't want to be hurt anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I know I have a purpose in my pain, but woo, am I tired of feeling it. And God said, you know what? I'm not done with you yet. I thought he was done with me. I thought he had brought me out of sickness just to leave me depressed. And he said, no, I'm not done with you yet. I'm not going to bring you. God is not going to bring you this far to bring you this far. And I didn't know that then. I would have never thought that. Like, wow, God really almost gave me cancer and let me die from it just to let me be cured and leave the hospital right before Christmas and have the best Christmas of my life and leave me depressed and obsessed and suicidal and angry and anxious. Like, really? That's what you think God's going to do for you? You think he's going to bring you that far just to leave you there? No. God brought me something beautiful out of it, which is you, this podcast. God brought me a journalism career. God brought me opportunities I never thought I would have. And I never thought I would have this. I have people who sit here and listen to my testimony. I have people who look up to me as a role model and listen to my instructions and my guidelines of my life on how they live theirs. I never thought that would be my life. I never thought I would have a tenth of what I have. But God showed me my purpose and I found peace in God. And that doesn't mean my life is perfect, but I know that I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to get over it. I don't have to worry about life. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore because I know God is going to fix it. I know God is going to handle it. I know God brought me through once, so he's going to bring me through again and again and again until the day I die and I'm with him again. God is healed my heart. And let me touch on that. You guys know, if you guys are familiar with our main TikTok, I have my own personal TikTok, Alex Elamine 101. And on Alex Elamine 101, I post my interviews with Chicago's, and hopefully I want to make this nationwide, top athletes. And I've interviewed top athletes like Jonas Williams, Talon Taylor. I've interviewed Phoenix Gill, Marquise Clark, Ryken Wu, Andre Tyler. I've interviewed a lot of huge high school names, and I've been really blessed to do that. And I'm only going up from there. Let me tell you that. Let me tell you this. When I started interviewing athletes, I thought it was not for me because I'm not the biggest sports person. I love sports. I've grown up around sports. I've always had a thing for basketball. Always been obsessed with it. Didn't think I would ever be qualified to do this. Didn't know enough about it. And then I interviewed Jonas Williams. I interviewed him, I think it was the beginning of October. Not gonna really talk about that. The interview did really well numbers wise, but a lot of people said a lot of pretty nasty stuff about me in that comment section. And I even had a couple of people say, you know what, never interview again. Never do it again. You suck. This isn't for you. Don't do it. And you know what? I proved them wrong. I thought after that interview was very discouraging because it was my first big interview and I thought it was going to be the interview to break me because it just didn't go the way I thought it would go. Well, look at me now. Like, God had told me to keep going, to keep pressing on it. A few weeks after I interviewed him, I drove my butt all the way from Chicago, Illinois to Geneva, Illinois, which is, I just don't even know where it's at. It was like in a little dark, I don't even know where it was. Um, and I interviewed Talon Taylor. The interview went so much better, so much smoother. I knew what I was doing. I did my research. Did really well numbers wise. Amazing. I didn't give up on it then. God told me not to give up on it. And I didn't. And my interviews are great. My recent interview with Andre Tyler from Simeon got over like 1,000, I think over 12,000 people saw that interview. Like it was insane numbers wise. Not only numbers wise, because that's not what I do it for. Like I don't do it for attention or gratification or whatever, but I do it to kind of give voices to those kids who are playing and have the raw talent and potential and aren't marketed the way I feel they should be marketed. So I kind of go out like a scout and I sit and I watch and I see who I think can really play and I interview them to just get them out there a little bit more. And they're getting the recognition that they absolutely deserve. And you know what? It's also healed me in a way. And let me tell you guys how. Let me tell you guys how God will work in mysterious ways. Went to the Chicago Classic, the Elite Classic. If you guys follow our TikTok, then you know that. Because I did like a get ready with me and I did like a whole 380 of it. It was a really great time. Went to the Chicago Elite Classic, and I'm not going to say his name, but I saw somebody I wanted to interview because they're a really good player. But I knew this guy personally, and we had a little bit, he was friends with somebody, with that same guy from the beginning or whatever, and I didn't think he would take an interview with me. Saw him in the hallway, he was super nice, and he took an interview with me, and it did really well, and I was really surprised. And it healed me because it was like, wow. I also got to interview some other people who were also involved in that situation. Not the guy himself, but some people that were also there during that time. And it was also very healing because it was like 2 years ago. These are the same people that kind of talked about me or said some stuff that wasn't so kind or painted me out to be some loser or whatever. And now these are people that I'm interviewing and that are nice to me. And it's like a complete 360. And it was very healing to me. It like healed my heart a little bit. And now I'm not looked at the same way. I saw that weekend how God had pulled me through these interviews because now through these interviews, I'm not looked at or tainted as, because you know, I was looked at as a groupie or like a slut for a really long time because of that situation with that guy because he was an athlete. Now I'm seen as somebody who's kind of cool or has some kind of social status or whatever, which I don't need to feel good about myself, but boy does it help. My reputation has done a complete like 180 in the sports world through these interviews. And I started them out just like bored watching a football game saying, you know what I should do? I should interview these players. I loved this game. I did it and it's like healed me immensely. To have people that made fun of you want you to interview them now. I mean, you ever hear that saying like hustle until your haters are hiring? Ask if you're hiring. No, what is it? Hustle until your haters ask if you're hiring. That's the one. And that's how I felt. And it's been so helpful. And you know, returning to school, let me tell you guys this one. Returning to school and facing those same people who broke me and watching them see me get pieced back together and not only get everything I got back that I had lost, but letting them see that I got 10 times more than what I had originally. And when I tell you guys, it was hard for me. I was nervous. Like, facing those people who did everything in their power to hurt me and tear me apart was hard. Confronting those demons have been hard. I still deal with that every day. I still am triggered by furniture or seeing somebody's face or a certain situation. It'll trigger me. It'll trigger my PTSD, and I'll go back to those days and I'll have intense flashbacks, and I'll remember and I'll cry and I'll have to talk through it and pray through it and whatever. So it's definitely something I still struggled with. But I'm now able, through the podcast and through my interviews and through everything that I'm doing now, journalism wise and media wise and social media wise, now I'm able to reframe that and reclaim my name and my reputation, which was so wrongfully tainted from me. So many people told me so many people said such nasty stuff about me. So many people said I was a slut and I was a bitch and I was going to amount to nothing and I was ugly and I was everything under the sun. Everybody had something to say about Alex Elamine, and none of it was positive. And everybody remembered me over a situation I really could not control the narrative of, because I'm a woman, because we get talked about like dogs, even though we're not in the wrong in a lot of these romantic situations. I mean, I'm just saying. I was told I would never amount to anything. Anything. I was told I would never come back to school, that I was just going to just sit there and suffer alone and be miserable for the rest of my life, and it was going to be a bunch of shit. I was talked about like a dog by those people, and those same people have to see me succeed every day. Those same people see my podcasts every week. Those same people see my interviews blow up. Those same people see my brand deals, my media, my social media. Those same people are seeing me thrive. Those same people are seeing me shadow at ABC7. Those same people are seeing me work my butt off every single day. And those same people are seeing me thrive, although they thought, let me just hate on her, let me try to diminish her light. And guess what God said? Not only am I going to bring her light back, but I'm going to make her shine 10 times brighter than she was before. I have flourished my senior year despite their past attempts to bring me down, to tear me down, because no weapon formed against me prospered. Because I have God on my side this time. And when you have God on my side, honey, things go differently. Okay, guys, so I want to do Ask Alex. You know, I am totally obsessed with this segment. This is probably my favorite segment that we do on this podcast. So if you guys aren't familiar, if this is your first time here, basically Ask Alex is a segment where you guys submit your questions to a Google form link that is in the episode description below, and it's linked on all of our social media accounts that you should follow. And I basically pick the questions, although I get a lot more now than I used to, and I respond to them in next week's episode. So I got a lot of really good ones, so I chose about 12. We're gonna be here a while, so get comfy, get your tea, because I'm really excited. Okay. Hi, Alex. Hi. I admire how resilient and confident you are after everything you've been through. How do you stay strong when people doubt or underestimate you? You know what? First of all, thank you so much for that compliment. It means the world to me. That's so sweet. How do you stay strong when people doubt or underestimate you? I remember that I don't need anyone's validation to know who I am. I've talked about this in I think it was the last episode that we had, I can't even remember what our last episode was. Um, but I talked about I remember talking about not needing external validation to feel good about myself, and that has been a big thing for me. I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm strong or beautiful or whatever to know that I'm strong or beautiful. You know what I mean? I rely on myself. I rely on God. I remember my purpose, and I focus on proving myself to me, not to others, of what I'm capable of. Okay? Sorry, I can't speak tonight. It's too late, but I love that question. Okay. Hi, Alex. Your ability to overcome so much is inspiring. How do I build my confidence and stop comparing myself to others? You know what? This is such a beautiful question, and I love that you're being so vulnerable by asking it. Well, I always really recommend practical tips like affirmations, celebrating small wins, and like deepening one's connection to God. I don't need external validation from people, so that's a big factor. And comparison is definitely the thief of joy. I have to say this is a really good question. Comparison is definitely the thief of joy. When it came to building my confidence, because I was definitely in a spot a couple of years ago, if you asked 13-year-old me, did I like myself? My answer would have probably been no. And the biggest reason was because I was like one of those 13-year-olds that like compared myself to like Zendaya on Instagram and stuff like that, and it was really unhealthy. And I feel like I would have been a lot healthier with myself and my 13-year-old body if I wasn't comparing myself to internet like women, which was like a big thing for me a couple of years ago. So that's the biggest thing. Like, you have to realize you're on a different journey than people are, and whether you're comparing yourself physically like I was, or comparing your journey or whatever is going on in your life, like, you have to realize that that's not going to get you anywhere. A big thing that helped me build my confidence was having this realization that not liking yourself is not going to get you anywhere. I think I've talked about this a couple of times before, but I struggle with this a lot. And then one day I just kind of had this realization that I was like, well, where is not liking myself getting me except for being miserable? And that's kind of what was going on. I was like, I'm not getting anything out of this. Like, why not just like myself? Because not liking myself is not very fun either. So I always will say to do affirmations, build your faith in God. That's a big one. Celebrate your small wins. Stop comparing yourself to people and know that you don't need validation from any other person but God and yourself when you do it. Love that question. Okay. Hi, Alex. Hi. Alex, you radiate positivity and grace. How do you forgive people who've hurt you deeply? You know what? You have such a kind heart for asking this question because forgiveness takes so much courage. So, this was a really good question. I recently had this realization. I don't know if I've talked about it on here yet, but I've had a realization that you forgive people for you, and that forgiveness is a key. I used to be one of those people, I think I've said this before because I remember saying it, I just don't remember when, that really believed that you could not forgive and not forget and just move on with your life and just like pick up the pieces and fast forward. I don't know why I actually believed that, but it's definitely not true. I had a realization that I had to forgive people, and you're not forgiving people for them or for reconciliation or for them being back in your life. And that's what I think is often tied to forgiveness, which is why it holds us back from doing it. But you forgive people, and it doesn't even have to be like a conversation. It can be a one-ended, I just forgive this person in my life who hurt me, even though they didn't say sorry, even though they don't feel bad about what they did to me, even though they don't know the depths and the lengths of how they messed me up. I'm going to choose to forgive them because I don't want to be bitter anymore. And that's what I did in my life. I have chosen to forgive people who have cut me very, very deeply because I don't want to carry the weight of what they did to me anymore. At the beginning of this episode, I talked a little bit about how May 2023 was a really rough month for me. That guy that we talked about from my sophomore year in hell, he got a new girlfriend and she was really mean to me. And that hurt my feelings a lot because me and that girl were close. We weren't the closest of friends, but we were friends and we knew each other. And for her to turn her back on me because of a relationship and to act like that towards me, that girl was so mean to me and she was relentless with it for a while. And she's still pretty mean to me. And it hurt me. And it hurt me and it hurt me and it hurt me. And I carried this grudge towards her and it kept me up at night. And I used to cry about it because it was like, why did you choose to, why did you choose to turn your back on me? Why did you choose to hurt me? Why would you do that to me? And it affects your self-esteem and it keeps you up at night and it drives you crazy because that's what it did with me. And then one day I had a moment where I needed closure and I forgave her. And I told myself, I said, you know what? Blank and blank, I forgive you. I don't want to forgive you. I don't like what you did to me. You hurt me. You cut me very deeply. You came at me at a very vulnerable point in my life, but I don't want to carry this burden with me anymore. I don't want to carry this trauma on my chest anymore. I want to breathe and feel my breath come into my lungs and exhale it. I don't want to breathe in my trauma anymore and carry that burden on my chest anymore. I want to go to sleep at night and sleep through the night. I don't want to be hurt about what you did to me anymore. And that's a big thing. And that's why I chose to forgive her. And it wasn't easy. I still have moments where I relapse and I get mad all over again and I got to forgive all over again. But you have to forgive for you. It's more about releasing yourself from that anger, from that trauma, from that obsession, from the depression, than excusing the behavior. So that's why I've learned to forgive people who've cut me because I've been hurt. I've been hurt deeply and I've learned to forgive and forget. Not for them, but for me. And I've been able to do that through the grace of God. Another thing that's helped me forgive people, I love this question. Another thing that's helped me forgive people has been remembering how many times I've messed up, how many times I've doubted God, how many times I've fallen into the same pattern of sin, and God has forgiven me. God still listens to my prayers. God still loves me. Love is not boastful. Love is unconditional. It is not prideful. It is kind and it is true. And that's the kind of love God has for me. And if I want to be a believer of Christ, if I want to follow God and His word, then I need to show that love to others. It's not hard because I'm not God. Ooh, am I not? Ooh, I am not Him. But I need to show that love as a Christian. God can forgive me. I can forgive other people. End of story. Okay. Hi, Alex. Hi, honey. How do I grow my faith when I feel like life keeps knocking me down? You know what? This is a really thoughtful question, and I can tell you have a really beautiful soul for wanting to strengthen your relationship with God, even when times are tough. And that's the first step. Now, it's hard because like I told you, I had a really rough time in my life this year. This was probably the worst year of my life. I've actually had the worst 2 years of my life. High school in general has been hard for me, right? And so many times I would think to myself, like a human does, because we're human, I would think to myself, well, you know what? I would say, you know what? Why is God putting me through this? He claims to love me so much. He claims to not let any weapon form against me prosper, and He's supposed to be there, but they're prospering. It feels like it. It feels like everything's going wrong. So why would I believe in God? And it looks like God doesn't believe in me. And this was the thing. God has not given up on me, so why would I give up on God? God hasn't given up on me, and I saw that when I got sick. I saw that when I went through relentless bullying and had to miss school for a year and got right on back on track and went to school the next year. I had to go through hell and back, but heaven was the result. God has not given up on me, so why would I give up on God? I'm still alive, and every day that I'm still up, that He wakes me up in the morning and I'm still breathing, is Him saying, I'm not done with you yet. Now, there are times where I think, well, I have these moments of doubt, like, how is God going to get me through this? How am I going to be able to get through this? But He's gotten me through it time and time again. So He's going to do it again. Like I said, God is not going to bring you this far to have brought you this far. Now, I'm definitely going to encourage small, consistent habits like prayer, like journaling, like reading your scripture daily, like being on fire for God, like writing in your prayer journal, like getting up in the morning and saying your gratitude prayer. Gratitude needs to be your attitude. Run to God. When you feel upset, when you need somebody to talk to, when you need to vent, run to God. Run on your knees and start praying. When you're isolated, when you're lonely, when you're depressed, when you feel like nobody understands you, God understands you. Get on your knees and pray. When you're crying and you feel like the world is over and you're on your bathroom floor, like I've been multiple times, get on your knees and pray. That's how you grow your faith in those vulnerable, dark moments. Praise through it. I love this podcast. I will always talk about it. This is my first time mentioning it on here, though. I listen to the Girl Just Heal podcast. It's a Christian podcast. It's hosted by a Black woman, Namoya. Love her. That's my homegirl. She's my homegirl. We homegirls. Love her. She talks about how she does this thing where she prays through it. Praise through it. Not praise. She prays, but she praises through it, right? And she'll have moments of doubt. She'll have moments of disbelief, of anguish, of sadness, and she turns on prayer music. She turns on praise music, and she listens to her Tamla Man, to her Tasha Combs Leonard. She turns on her Kiara Sherd. What's her name? Sherd? Whatever her name is. Love her. And she praises through it. Like, God, it may not be good right now, but I'm going to bring it to you because I've seen you make beautiful out of the ugly. I've seen you turn goodness out of ugliness. I've seen you turn the mess into a blessing. I've seen you do it before. It may not be good right now, but I'm going to thank you for it, God, because I know you are going to make something great out of it. And that's been my attitude of faith. You have to remember, like I said, I'll keep saying it, I'll keep saying it, I'll keep saying it. God is not going to bring you this far to just let you go this far. He is going to let you continue to grow and be a beautiful person and establish yourself. Even though life continues to knock you down, you may think you have nowhere to run, you have nowhere to hide, but why hide? God got you. He's going to be there for you. He's not going to let you fall. He didn't let you fall before. He's not going to do it again. Won't He do it? Okay. Hi, Alex. Hi, honey. You inspire so many people with your podcasts and interviews. Thank you. How do I find my own purpose in life? Well, first of all, you inspire me by asking this question because it shows how deeply you care about living a meaningful life. So, kisses to you. Love you. I want to say you're not going to know your purpose overnight, and your purpose definitely evolves over time. But I want to encourage the person who asked this and anybody who's listening to try different things while listening to where God leads you. Right. If you had asked me 2 years ago what my purpose was, it would say to be some kind of attorney or something like that and live in New York and marry a ginger and have cats or whatever. And I might still do that. I might marry a white guy named Tom with red hair and have 3 cats and live in a brownstone. So who knows? But my purpose over time has changed because, like I said, I would have never thought I would be doing these interviews. I was a regular smuggler girl from the rack. I was just the same old Jenny from the block. I never thought I would be sitting here having a podcast, and I never thought thousands of people would be listening to it. I never thought this would ever be my life, but here I am. Purpose evolves over time, and the more consistent and the more deep-rooted you stay in God's word, the more you see your purpose come out in your daily life. When I was getting out of the hospital last year, and I was sitting in the shower and I was like thinking to myself, I'm listening to an episode of Anything Goes, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, hold on guys, I like actually need to send a text. I'm not even kidding. I'm thinking to myself, I need to start a podcast because I love the way she talks and I love the way she expresses herself. So I need to express myself in that same way, and I need to start a podcast and give advice to people. And I would have never thought it would have turned into me becoming a journalist. I would have never thought it would have turned into me having a podcast and talking to you guys. I would have never thought this would have ever been my life, ever. But here it is, and I'm very grateful for it. And I want to thank you all for it. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be days where you feel that your past defines you and that you're never going to move on and that you lost your sparkle or you lost your strength or whatever. But you also have to think about it in this way. You sometimes have to lose everything to gain it all back and get more than you had in the first place. Look at my story. I lost everything and I got back everything I lost and 10 times more. So that's how you have to think about it at times. You can do this. You are so loved. Stay in prayer. Stay prayed up, girl. And you're so loved and you're so much more than your past. I can promise you that. Hi, Alex. Your podcast feels like such a safe space. How do I surround myself with people who lift me up rather than tear me down? You know what? This compliment really just made my day. Thank you for sharing that with me. That one really made my day. That was really sweet. How do I surround myself with people who lift me up rather than tear me down? Well, when you set boundaries within yourself, one thing that is a big thing for me is I know I don't deserve to be around people who constantly tear me down or talk about me because I know what I deserve and that I'm a genuine person and that I don't do that to people. So I don't deserve to have that happen to me. So because I know my self-worth, which is something that is so big on that, I'm able to set boundaries. And because of those boundaries, I don't tolerate those people. I pray for discernment a lot when choosing relationships. God really has blessed me with the gift of discernment. I feel like that's something I'm really good at. I can meet somebody and tell whether or not they're like a good person for me or not. Pray for that for sure. But there's such importance in realizing your self-worth because with self-worth becomes boundaries. Once you know that you're a beautiful person inside and out and that you don't deserve to have somebody around you who continues to tear you down or talk about you, then you don't tolerate people who tear you down and talk about you. And then you're around people who feel like my podcast, which is such a safe space for you. That's so sweet. I love that. Thank you. Next question. Hi, Alex. What Bible verse or story keeps you going when life feels impossible? I love this question because the Bible has so much wisdom and comfort to offer, so this was like a really good one. My favorite my verse is probably I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I quote that a lot, or I quote the psalm like you're fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image. I love those two. Those are probably my two favorite Bible verses. They're very meaningful to me. They're both very meaningful to me because I always have to remember that I can do all things through Christ because sometimes I can't lean on my own understanding or my own strength. I have to lean on Jesus's because, oh baby, when I tell you I can't do it on my own. And the second really helps me when I have some kind of insecurity or some kind of doubt within myself or even with God. I just remember that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made and that God planned me out thousands of years ago when he was naming the stars in the sky. He knew Alex Elamine. He knew what she was going to look like. He knew her life plan and her destiny. And that brings me so much comfort. I love those two verses. Tell me if you guys have something different. I love those two. Okay. Hi, Alex. Hi, honey. Your strength is so inspiring. How did you rebuild your confidence after being cyberbullied? You know what? That means so much to me. It definitely wasn't easy, but God showed me, I think, my true worth, and that's something no one can take away. When I was cyberbullied by people I was very close to. I wasn't cyberbullied by strangers. These were girls that I loved and trusted and called sisters. And it was very hard. And I had to learn so much about myself, but I learned the importance of self love. I learned the importance of focusing on your goals and not giving energy to negativity. If I could tell myself one thing that I wish I told myself in that situation, is that anybody who has the time to sit up there and pick apart any flaw that you have on the internet is very bored and miserable within their own life. And you don't have to give energy into misery, because misery loves company. And I would totally not even feed into that situation at this point I am in my life now. At that point, I thought I was defending myself, but now I'm like, I don't have to defend myself against somebody who's miserable. I don't have to do that. I find that to be stupid. There's such importance, though, in focusing on you, because the more you pour into yourself and the more you pour into your self love and your self confidence and rebuilding yourself, the more easily it comes. So the more time I spent in the podcast, and the more time I spent journaling and in prayer and working out and getting dolled up and just doing stuff for Alex and focusing on Alex and her goals and strengthening my weaknesses and getting, you know what I mean? Like, just getting my life together, the easier it was to rebuild my confidence after being cyberbullied. I know who I am, and I know I didn't deserve that, and I knew it was just unnecessary high school drama, and it was just a chapter in my life, but it wasn't the title of my book. So, yeah, thank you for that question. That was beautiful. Hi, Alex. You always seem to carry yourself with so much grace. How do you stay motivated when life feels overwhelming? Thank you. That is such a sweet thing to say. Okay. How do I stay motivated when life feels overwhelming? Well, I pray. I pray. I mean, that's what I do with everything. Like, anytime I feel some kind of giant emotion that I feel like I can't do anything, I'm like, okay, let me talk to Jesus. Like, I can't deal with it. Like, I need to pray about this. I need to pray. I need to pray. So I lean into my faith for sure. And I just ask God, I'm like, God, help me focus on what is right. Help me focus on staying obedient. Help me not fall into any kind of spiritual attack right now, God. And help me stay motivated. Help me not to fall into the spirit of laziness, Father. Help me to stay motivated during this journey right now, because I'm dealing with so much and I feel so overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. And I just pray that you give me the strength to keep going on and the motivation even when life feels overwhelming. And I've been stuck in that cycle before, where I'm people pleasing and I'm overwhelmed and I'm trying to make this person happy and make this person happy and make this person happy, and I just pray and I ask God what to do. He shows me not to prioritize anyone but him, and once I just put God first, the rest falls into line. Amen. Thank you for that question. That was so sweet, and that was such a beautiful compliment. Thank you. Okay. I've been feeling so lost lately and I don't know where to start. How do I begin to pull myself together? Love the podcast, by the way. You know what? You asking this question shows you're already stronger than you think, because self-awareness is the first step. And I want to let you know that you are never so lost that you cannot come back home. The first step, and I know I sound preachy, but it's true. The first step to pulling yourself back together outside of this funk, outside of whatever you're going through right now, is call on Jesus. Sometimes our lives fall so apart and the pieces of our lives are all over the floor and we don't know what to do and you don't know where to start to put it back together. And that's where you ask Jesus, and that's where you call on the Lord, and that's where you say, you know what, God, I can't do this anymore. I need you to just fight for me. And that's what I did in my life. And I've been able to build myself up and get my life together and make myself happy again. And I haven't been happy in so long, and start to feel free from the burdens of my trauma. Although I'm still struggling with it, it's a big deal. So you're never so lost that you can't come home, that you're lost completely. Like, that's not what's going on. God's going to pull you through. And the first, you know where to start? With God. I can't tell you where to put yourself together in your life. I can't tell you what to do or what to focus on. I can just tell you to lean on God right now. And He's going to show you step by step through prayer how to put your life back together and how to pull yourself together. You're so loved. You're so worthy. Start praying, God. Start praying. Just start praying. Okay, last question. You've talked about being in a dark place before. How do you keep going when it feels like there's no way out? You know what? This question really touches me because I know exactly how that feels, and I really want you to know that you're not alone. Faith pulled me through. I had moments where I thought my life was unbearable, that the pain was unbearable, that the burdens were too heavy, and that I wasn't going to be able to get through this. I had moments in my life where I thought my life ended the day I went into that hospital because I thought my life wasn't worth living anymore. I thought life was over for me. And God pulled me through in a way I just never saw coming. And I thank Him for that every single day. That's how I got out of those days when it felt like there was no way out. God had to just keep me alive, even though I felt like I was in pain every day I was breathing, so that I could realize there was a purpose in my pain. God kept me going. I didn't do any of it. It was completely God. And I'm so happy. It's easier to say that now that I'm on the other side, now that I'm out of that dark place, now that I feel so much better. But it was God. Therapy helped a lot. I leaned on my therapist as well. I went to a PHP program. I have no shame in saying that. I talked to the people around me who were trained mental health professionals to help me with that. I journaled a lot. I'm a strong advocate in keeping a journal and writing down your feelings. I focused on my small victories and I poured my energy into having a relationship with God. And I poured my energy into getting my life together. And I stopped pouring it into negativity, into drama, into chaos, into all of that stuff. I poured it into God. And that really helped me climb out of that dark place. So lean on God, lean on the people around you who love you, lean on mental health professionals, lean on journaling or praying or painting or whatever you consider to be your therapy. Lean on that to comfort you through this because you're not alone. You may feel that you're alone, but that's just a spiritual attack. Loneliness is a spiritual attack from the devil. It leads us to have our defenses down so the devil can take away stuff from you because your defense is so down. But you're not alone. You're so loved. You're fearfully and you're wonderfully made. And I love that question. You know what? Your questions always leave me feeling so inspired and connected to all of you. So remember, you are not alone in whatever you're facing. You know, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and God is always going to be there to guide you. Please keep sending me your amazing questions. I love hearing from you, and they keep this podcast so special. And that concludes another segment of Ask Alex. Okay, now I want to transition into part 5, which I am calling Lesson Learned and Words of Faith. And I really want to talk about what this journey taught me about resilience, faith, and finding myself. These past 2 years were miserable. They were hard. I went through so much, but like I've said countless times probably throughout this episode, I had to lose absolutely everything to gain it all back and to get 10 times more than I had originally. I learned lessons I will apply throughout the rest of my life. I've learned so much about myself through this journey. I learned how to get to know myself. I've learned that self-love is the key in life. I've learned where to put your energy into. I've learned so much about people. I've learned so much about psychology. I've learned so much about guys. I've learned so much about life, even though I've had to go through hell to learn it. I do quote this a lot, like I do wish I had the wisdom of my experiences without the trauma of experiencing them, but that's just kind of not how life works. But I'm absolutely super grateful for the journey I've been down. Even though it's been hard, even though it hasn't always been the easiest journey, it's been my journey and I'm proud of it. And I've learned so much about myself. I've also learned that God is the way. And that's the most important journey. That's the most important lesson, to ever learn. God is the way to get out of it. God is going to bring you through everything in your life. You may think you've reached the most impossible because I thought I was going to die. I sat in a hospital bed and prepared myself for death. And God brought me through that. I'm now sitting here a year later telling my listeners of my podcast, which I never thought I would have, my testimony of how I overcame that, how I overcame almost dying. God brought me through. I learned that God is the way to life. There is no life without God. Why would you want to live a boring, sad life filled of sweet nothings when you can live a meaningful life with God? And I learned so much about my life. I've really learned to trust in God's timing and believe in His power because God is going to turn your pain into purpose. God is going to turn your pain into purpose. You may think you are broken. You may think you will never be used again. You may think you are a broken toy that nobody wants to play with. You may feel ugly. You may feel dirty. You may feel all of the above. But God is going to take that pain and make it beautiful. God is going to take a messing and turn it into a blessing. God is going to take you being bullied and tortured and talked about and sexually assaulted and harassed and being slut shamed and cyberbullied and going to take that and turn that into a podcast and into a journalism career and you finding your passion and sharing your testimony online. That's what God's going to make it. Isn't that insane? I never thought this would be my life ever. I never thought I would get a tenth of everything I've gotten, but God turned my mess into a blessing. I learned so much about how God works. When people say God works in mysterious ways, they're not lying. God works in very mysterious ways. The thing I love the most about God is how he will take the ugliest of ugly things and turn it into a beautiful blessing out of it. He'll turn it into something beautiful. After you thought it was over, after you thought your journey was over, God is going to take that, extend your journey, and make it the most beautiful it is. He's working in your favor at all times. At times you don't even see it. Do you think I thought when I was in that hospital bed God was working in my favor then? No. But he was, I just didn't see it. I learned so much. And it's sad, I think, now that I had to lose everything to appreciate that God's always been on my side. But now that I appreciate it, God gave me God gave me so much. And I thank him every single day because of it. I'm absolutely and utterly obsessed with God. And I'm so happy to be on this journey. I'm so grateful for everything that God has given me. Now, this last thing I want to touch on is you are going to flourish in front of the same people who doubted you. God is going to put you back together in front of the same people who try to break you, because that's what he did. That's what God did with me. Those same people who tried to burn me down, who talked about me every day, who talked about me like a dog, who talked about my reputation and ruined me and made me feel like crap about myself, God put me back together right in front of them. Those are those same people who are watching my interviews. Those are those same people who are watching me thrive on social media. Those are those same people who are seeing podcast clips. Those are those same people. I am flourishing in front of the people that sat there and actively tried to break me, because God said no weapon formed against me will prosper. And he meant that. God is going to let those people see you flourish. God is going to let those people see your blessings. God is going to let them see you get loved out loud. God is going to let them see you get your dream job. God is going to let them see you move to your city you've always wanted to move in. God is going to let them see you get accepted into your dream college. God is going to let them see everything they tried to prevent you from getting, and let them see you get much more than that. God is going to put you back together in front of those people that broke you. You do not have to be afraid of confronting them again. You do not have to be sad or angry or vengeful, because God has the best revenge for them, which is your success. I don't have to worry about getting revenge on those who tried to hurt me in the past, who tried to break me down, because God gave me the best revenge, my success. You can say anything about me, but you cannot deny the success I have. You cannot deny my career. You cannot deny my hard work. You cannot deny that I'm flourishing and that I'm going places. You can say anything else about me. You can say I'm ugly. You can say I'm battered. You can say I'm bruised, but you cannot say I'm not successful. And that is God putting me back together in front of those people that broke me. Those people that broke me have to see me every single day flourishing in God's name. God made me happy again. I glow differently. I have real friends. I've met my person. I am in the best position I've been in years because of God in front of those people who tried to put me in my grave. They saw me rise from my grave and make something new of it and rebuild my life. I'm spitting. I feel like TD Jakes. I feel like Joyce Meyer, but I am on fire. And that is exactly what is going to happen for you. That is what God is telling you. He is going to put you right back together in front of the people that broke you, because no weapon formed against you will prosper. He is going to let them see you win. You are going to continue to win. You may feel broken. You may feel that it is over for you, but every single day that you wake up, you have not lived in your purpose, and God is saying to you that he isn't done with you. Every single day that you wake up, God is telling you, I'm not done with you yet. He's not done with you yet. If he was done with you, you'd be dead. You'd be gone. If God was done with me in 2023, I would have died in 2023, but he let me live to 2024, and I'm going into 2025 with him right by my side. I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. I don't have to worry about people's opinions, because not only did God restore me, but he restored me so much that the only validation that I want is his. And that's what God is going to do. God is going to make something beautiful out of a mess. God is going to fix you so much that you won't even miss what you had. You think I miss my old life at all? No. Because God restored my new life is so much better. God made something beautiful out of a near-death experience. And that is what he is going to do for you. God is going to align things perfectly. You're going to look up one day and cry tears of gratefulness because of how beautiful God got. The situation that you thought was going to kill you just brought you life. The person you thought was going to end your life, well, you're out doing them. You're out succeeding them. Your numbers are better than them. You're making more money than them. You're succeeding in life. You have God on your side. Won't he do it? You thought your moment was over, but God is saying, I am just starting with you, my child. Isn't that powerful? I want to say, as we close out this episode, that there is something in my life that I struggle with talking about, and I've talked about it on TikTok and I've talked about it on here before, but I struggle a lot with a breakup. I've talked about it in detail on here before. It feels like I've never gotten over it. I've tried everything under the sun and it's hurt me and it stayed with me. And I've been using my interviews to kind of pull through some old wounds and heal me, and they've helped immensely. But I just don't know what's going to help this. But I'm feeling now, especially after this episode, and reminding myself how God brought me through every other thing, that he's going to bring me through this, even though I've been sad about the same situationship for about 2 years now, and that's okay. It's something I really struggle with, but I want to talk about it more. I want to be more vulnerable about it, because situationships are hard. I just saw a TikTok, actually. I want to read it out to you guys. It was like, if you asked me about my situationship, I'd say, like, it's fine, I'm over it. But if you asked me on a deeper level, I'd say it completely destroyed me. I'm unrecognizable. I feel so stupid that it's taking me this long to get over someone that I wasn't technically in a relationship with. I'm anxious all the time, ruminate constantly about the situation. Nothing works. I've tried everything under the sun. I've moved cities, changed jobs, and I still feel broken. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. I'm numb, emotionless, and feel humiliated. While the other person has moved on and thriving, while you're still stuck in the past is heartbreaking. Some days are better, but most are not. And that has been me word for word for the past 2 years. I've been absolutely traumatized and filled with grief about that situation and the fact that it didn't work out. It's really, really hurt me. But I know that God's going to pull me through. That was just me being vulnerable and talking about that with you guys. I know that God's going to pull me through, especially after this episode. It's been a great reminder that God has pulled me through everything else, and he's put me back together in front of other people that have broken me, so I know he'll put me back together in front of him or not in front of him or whatever. I'm just trusting God completely with his plan, and that's all I can do at this point, right? Thank you to everyone who listens to Literally My Life, and even if this was your first episode, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining this deeply personal journey. Literally My Life started off as a passion project almost a year ago now, and it's grown into be something so much more, and I can't believe that I have you guys. I love you guys, and I want to thank everybody who listens every single week. It means so much to me, and the fact that people actually care about my journey and even check in on me just means so much to me. I'm so obsessed with you guys, and I love you guys so much. I encourage you guys to reflect on your own faith, your own resilience, and your own growth, and I challenge you guys to think about the areas in your life that you thought were going to be a messing, and God turned it into a blessing. And I want you to reflect on those times that you thought your life was over, but God just said, I'm actually just getting started with you. Sorry, I just had to get your attention. I encourage you to reflect on those times, because I'm sure you've had a time or two, more than that probably. And just remember that God is with you all the time. You may think you're alone, you may think it is over for you, but God is with you. And what is the saying? Oh my God, I should know this because I'm always in the Bible. What is it? Who can be against you if God is for you? Remember that. Before we end this episode, I want you guys to subscribe to our newsletter, shop off of our Amazon storefront. I need you guys to follow our Instagram, our TikTok, subscribe to our YouTube. I'm going to start posting more on there, and just stay updated with all things Literally My Life, my guide to girlhood. I love, love, love you guys. Thank you guys for healing a part of me and closing a wound I never thought would close. Have Have a great night. I will see you guys all next week on another episode of Literally My Life, My Guide to